So my first tip is to start with you. So what does that mean? I feel that it's, I feel that as women, having confidence in ourselves is sometimes the challenge, right? So a lot of the time, you know, you really have to start with you and working on yourself first, because I can guarantee that every single one of you, or almost every single one of you, has doubts in your mind about the things that you want to do. No matter how experienced you are, or no matter how experienced other people think you are, you have doubts in your mind when you have an idea. So, you know, I'm sure there are ladies who are very experienced in their corporate jobs, have been doing very, very well in their career. You want to start something, but then you have a voice in your head and you're thinking, well, what if I fail? What if I can't do this? What if it goes wrong? Okay. So you really have to start with that voice in your head, because if you want to be an entrepreneur, the first thing you're going to have to do is learn to listen to yourself, your mind, your heart, and your gut, right? Your gut instinct. You can't, you know, spend too much time listening to other people. And that brings me on to my second point. One of the things that I know everybody goes through, I'm sure that many people think that this is a Filipino thing, and it is, but it's also global. Everybody does this, is you have these loving people in your life. So other than the voice in your own head that tells you that you might not be able to do things, you have loving people in your life trying to protect you, who warn you against doing the things that you want to do. Like, so if you want to start a business, how many of you have had parents that said, are you crazy? You're going to quit your stable job with your very good income and you're going to go and do something completely crazy. I know lawyers who quit being a lawyer and became fashion designers. And how many people do you think told them not to do it? Like, I mean, it just sounds like a crazy thing, right? Like, they spent all the money and the training and everything on their law school, and then all of a sudden they realize it's not their passion, but actually they want to be a fashion designer. And probably their best friends, sisters, brothers, and everyone else in their life told them that they must be mad. So, you know, if you can't have courage and believe in yourself, you're going to struggle in business. So you have to get that mindset right straight away. And I think, you know, these are the things that you need to think about when you're preparing yourself for business or anything that you're going to do in life, right? You need to be prepared to be authentic. Tell people, this is something that I really wanted to do and I'm passionate about it and I really want to go and do this, and this is why. And do it your way, not anybody else's way. And be transparent. Just tell people, look, I have to try this. I have to try it. And if I don't try, I'll never know if I could have been a success. And of course, you need to be innovative in business, because if you're starting up a business at any time, you need to try and come up with something that's a little bit different. But if you're starting a business now, you really need to dig deep and find that innovation within. And again, resilience is very important in business, regardless of if you are starting a business during a pandemic or a business during normal times. I think resilience is important. And then, of course, courage. You have to be willing to take that very first step. And the interesting thing is that all of these things, especially courage, they're not necessarily linked to huge, big things, right? So how many of you are sitting there thinking, well, I'm not very courageous? Well, how many of you have had to cut your own hair during the pandemic, or let someone else cut your hair during the pandemic? So this is me cutting my own hair with help from a stylist. And we use Zoom. And because I mean, even now my hair's getting too long, but as soon as my hair gets super long, I get very stressed and I feel tired. So I had to cut my hair. And I thought the only way I can do it is if I have help from someone else. And so we did it over Zoom together. And I actually posted it on Facebook Live just because I thought a lot of people might relate to having this problem. But definitely, you know, being in a situation like this shows us how courageous we are. So if you had to cut your family's hair, that's also a step in a new direction if you've never done it before. So don't just dismiss yourself and say, well, I'm not courageous and I'm nervous and I'm not innovative. You probably are all of these things. You just don't recognize it in yourself yet. So do look for those things that tell you that you actually have the entrepreneurial spirit within. I think Filipinos are very entrepreneurial by nature anyway, because we have to, right? So the next step, leading on from the confidence, is once you've given yourself that internal go-ahead, regardless of what other people in your life are saying, how do you get started? a lot of people actually message me and say, I really want to start a business, but how do I get started? And I'm very sorry to say it, but the advice is simple. You just have to do it. Following on from advice from Nike, the only way that you're going to start anything is to take the first step, right? But don't overwhelm yourself, because I think another thing that we tend to do is that we tend to overwhelm ourselves. And I do this all the time. I'll say, oh, I want to start something, something small. And then the idea will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And before I know it, the idea is so huge that I've actually terrified myself out of taking the first step. So if you have a big vision, that's great. You can have a huge vision to change the world, to become a billionaire, or a small vision. It doesn't matter. The point is, no matter whether your vision is big or small, all things start with one small step, right? So if you feel overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, just take a pen and paper and say, well, what could I do today? What's the first step that I could do towards my goal, right? To starting this business. Maybe it's as simple as reading some blogs or watching a video or taking a course. Maybe it's as simple as doing a bit of research. Maybe it's as simple as setting up your Facebook page. It could be just a small, simple thing, but you have to start somewhere. So try and identify whatever that thing is. And now, apparently, because we're all at home, or most of us are at home anyway, it's an opportunity for all of us to get started, right? So I mean, that's what I hear a lot. And I'm just going to share a little bit as well about that. A lot of people are like, pandemic, lockdown, here's 50 books that I'm going to read. I'm going to do 3 online courses. I'm going to set up that website that I've never started to do. Can you really cope with that right now? Let's be honest, we're all under strain, major strain. I just had to take a week off. I haven't been sick for a year. I haven't taken a day off sick for a year. I had to take time out because so much is happening and so much has been changing and shifting, and it's very stressful. Even if you don't know that you're stressed, you've got to be stressed inside, right? Definitely, because we're not in normal times. So ask yourself the question, is now the right time to actually take steps, and do this? Or should I just be a little bit kind to myself and say, you know what, maybe it is a great time for other people to do this, but I'm just going to take a little bit of time out and wait and breathe and take care of myself and my family, and and try and stay motivated and actually have some compassion for myself, because I think we're brilliant at being compassionate for everyone else and taking care of everyone else, but do we actually give ourselves the time of day that we need? And I know it, because if I'm taking care of everyone else and I don't take care of myself, that's when I get exhausted. And I'm sure that you can relate to that. So take care of yourself, and and look for that empathy. If you're in a group of people who are all in go, go, go productivity mode, doing all these busy things, and you're starting to feel demotivated because you don't feel like doing that stuff right now, find another group of people for now, and those who are in a different mode, who are slowing down and who are just trying to cope, and that's fine. Let's have empathy, and connect with people who are in the same place as us, because if we don't do that, we're not going to get through this. So you choose. What do you want to do? Do you want to build online courses? Do you want to attend, get certificates, collect as many certificates as you can? Or do you just want to get creative? Do you want to take this opportunity to do something different, creative, therapeutic? Or do you want to take up meditation? Or do you want to just rest? Try and find what's right for you right now, because I think if you're not listening, again, to yourself, then it's going to be challenging to actually get anything off the ground. And then we tend to beat ourselves up, right? Like we feel like we failed, or we didn't succeed, or we didn't do the things that we meant to do, but actually maybe it's just not the right time. So the next one is, of course, to keep on learning. I mean, I noticed something, because I was out of the Philippines for a long time. I was out of the Philippines for about 20 plus years. And so, and I've lived in Singapore, and I've lived in the UK, and I've been around many, many cultures. But there is one thing that I specifically noticed in the Philippines, and I find that people are very conscious of their age. How many of you, and please be honest with me, are sitting there and you're like in your 30s, and you're like, oh, it's getting hard for me to get a job now because I'm getting old. Or in your 40s, or in your 50s, right? Or even in your 20s. I see a lot of applications where I'm, job applications, and I see the job application will say something like, what are your we ask the question, what is your challenge right now getting a job? And they'll say, oh, because I'm getting older and the competition is getting tough. Please don't do that. Your experience is your asset, right? If you've spent 20 years or 30 years in a corporate career and you're now trying to get a job in a startup or something else, you should be recognized for that. It's an asset. It's not something that you should be, ashamed of or see it as a disadvantage. It's really how you present it. Some will discriminate, okay? Some will. Don't worry about those. Look for the ones who would look at your CV and say, wow, this lady is amazingly experienced. And then keep on learning, right? Because of course, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you haven't kept up to date with the latest tools and you can't keep up with the trends and everything that's happening now, you're not going to get a job, right? If I invite you to an interview and I say, oh, can we use, and I use some random tool that you've never used. If you say to me, oh, well, I don't know how to use that tool, can we just use Zoom? It will tell me that you're not willing to keep learning. And I think your biggest asset as an entrepreneur or in any career or in life in general is really that ability to keep on learning. How many of you are not techie, but you're having to have meetings online or build your own website? How many of you are not good at cooking, but you've had to learn how to bake or learn how to do some kind of new skill at home because the pandemic means that you can't always get the things that you want to get that you would normally buy in the shops or whatever else? How many of you are not teachers but are now teaching your children at home? So, we all have to start somewhere. And I really believe that, just having the courage again to do that. And this is our youngest son, Luke. He's turning 10 this year, and that's him doing his assembly online. And teachers, I mean, I salute the teachers out there who are having to just figure out how to be an online teacher. And those of you who are having to work from home with your kids home, and I think that's actually an attempt, my actual attempt of trying to bake an Elmo cupcake in the bottom corner there. And there's people, BBC Dad is celebrated now as the guy who sort of made it okay to have this chaos happening in your home when you're working from home. And I think thanks to incidents like that and the fact that we're all forced to work from home now, it's becoming much more acceptable to be working around your family and for things to go wrong, technical problems or family interruptions. It's becoming okay. And I think that's good for all of us. And the next point is, don't try to do it all. I mean, how many of us try to do it all and then can't do it all because we just can't cope with it? I mean, my to-do list is as long as my arm, probably literally as long as my arm if I printed it out. And I do try to do it all sometimes, but I have to remind myself that if I'm not going to get to do everything on my list, I have to pick something, right? What am I going to prioritize? And there's so many productivity lessons out there, how to manage your time, how to be more productive. There are tools, there are techniques. I love these. I'm a real productivity nerd, and I'm very passionate about productivity, and I'm always trying new tools. I drive my team crazy because I'm always readjusting my calendar and trying to do new things to make me more productive. But at the end of the day, my secret is to try and focus on doing the things that I love. And I know that sounds very idealistic, and it is, but if I have a to-do list that's, has 100 items on it, I want to do the things that I'm good at, that I love to do. That's what I should be spending my time on. What's the point in me spending my time doing the things that I'm terrible at doing, that I hate doing? So, if you're struggling with managing your time and your productivity and you don't know where to start, just make a list of everything that you need to do. And then circle the ones that you know that you're good at doing, that you love doing. And of course, you have to do a little bit of prioritization by importance, because sometimes we all have to do things that we don't love to do. And we're not necessarily the best person, but we have to, especially when we're starting out. But make sure that you're getting the right balance. And, if you have a lot of things on your to-do list, whether it's business or work or family, and you're noticing that most of the things that you have to do are the things that you don't like to do, that you're not good at doing, you're going to be demotivated. So you have to find a way to offload some of those tasks. Otherwise, you really will get drained. And the interesting thing right now is that roles are changing. I mean, in the home, right? The women, most of the time, I think, used to, certainly in our house, used to do the shopping. My husband never shops unless he was shopping for something that he wanted to shop for. So, who's doing shopping now? my husband has been doing the shopping because he has the quarantine pass, and it's been quite hilarious watching him. It takes him like 3 hours to buy, 10 items, and he has to message me every time and send me photos of all the items to check if it's the right item. So I'm so happy to know that it's a little bit more relaxed now, and someone else in the house can go out and shop, and we can also order most things because it drives me mad. But he actually likes doing it. So he likes doing that, but he's not very good at it. So by all means, invest time in getting better at doing something if you enjoy doing it. But if you really don't like doing it, what's the point in spending your time there? All these different roles are shifting, but at the end of the day, if you still have to hold down a job, manage the kids, teach the kids, shop, cook, and all of it, can you do it all and launch a business? You got to get bossy and at home and try and get rid of some of the tasks and make sure they're delegated. And this is an actual photo of my shopping list that I sent to my husband, and then the screenshots. And I feel so sad for him because it's confusing enough for a woman to choose a sanitary towel. But when a man has to choose a sanitary towel, it's just a whole universe of confusion. And I don't know how you ladies are coping and if your husbands have had to deal with that situation, but haven't times changed? I'd love to see, I'm going to read up the comments later, so post in your comments if you can relate to that specific situation. And finally, or not finally, actually, we still have 5 more to go. So, the next step, I guess, from figuring out what you need to offload, whether it's at home or at work, is really getting good at outsourcing, delegating, or automating, or even bartering. When you're in business, you need to find the right person to get the job done. It really, really is important, because if you're bad at finance, and you're trying to do your own finances, you're going to have a problem. You must get people, like key people, to do the things that you don't know how to do, because it will take too much time for you to try and learn to do it all. Some things you might want to learn, like you might be interested in digital marketing. It's important, and you want to take care of that task yourself because it's your brand and it's your voice. So by all means, invest time in learning how to do things that you don't know how to do. But and especially if you have an interest in that. But if you hate finance and you don't know how to do finance, just try and find an expert. And if you can outsource it, you can go to platforms and hire freelancers. You could delegate it if you have anyone, in an existing team that can obviously take that on and do it better. Some tasks can be automated, not finance, sadly, not yet. And maybe barter. If you're a brilliant designer, but you're terrible at finance, and you have a finance friend or someone in the community who's great at finance but terrible at design, why don't you design a logo for them in exchange for them doing your invoicing or something like that? So come up with creative ways, but get rid of tasks that you are not good at doing. And remember, women are the largest untapped reservoir of talent in the world, and they are experts, many of them. They have years of corporate experience. So don't miss out on the opportunity to work with someone from our community who could help you in your business. And of course, if you share a passion for supporting and helping women, then even better. And as I mentioned earlier, and I mentioned this earlier because it's actually my personal challenge, is I'm not great at finance. I've actually learned to be much better at finance, but I'm not super great at finance. So I think that, I find that there's a lot of women who are like not good at tech and not good at finance, or sometimes both of those. And that's fine, because, every one of us has different strengths. But the biggest reason why businesses fail is really because of the cash flow. And the challenge with business, when you're brand new to business, or you're just thinking about starting a business, and I have personally made this mistake in past businesses, and because of that my businesses have failed or almost failed, is that you think, well, actually, if I'm going to buy this mug from my suppliers for 20 pesos and I sell this mug for 50 pesos, then I'm going to make a profit, right? Even if I have to spend on a few other things. It's as simple as that. The costs minus what you sell it for, the price that you sell it for, minus the cost, is your profit. And it's as simple as that. And it kind of is, but it isn't. Because the trouble with in real life business is the cash flow. So the cash flow, for those of you that are new, is the timing of the money. Because it could be that before I can sell these mugs, I have to buy them first, right? So now I have to fork out money of my own and buy the mugs, and then I have to sell the mugs, so I need the capital. And then what happens if I get a big order? What if SM phoned me up and said, I love your Connected Women mugs, I want to take 1 million of them? How am I going to manage that? So the challenge is making sure that you have the money at the right time, not just that you have the money. So it's super important that you understand the difference between just the general sort of revenue and profit, and then the cash flow part of the business, and get help to plan your cash flow so that you don't end up short and then have to close your business even though you have money coming in, scheduled money, invoices that clients will be paying you for, but you just didn't have enough money to get there. And that's a very common problem with pretty much all businesses until you become much more established, and even when you're established, actually. So it's important to remember that, although you may not be in business only because of money, and you may be in business because of passion, or maybe money is the most important reason why you started your business. Maybe you started your business because of money. Money management, regardless of how you feel about it, is going to be one of the most important things that you're going to have to learn to do, and work with experts to make sure that you do it well. And of course, as always, budgeting, prioritizing, what you need to spend on in the early days, and then that innovation when you're doing your cash flow projections, it might change, right? So for example, there are so many restaurants and tourist boards and airlines and industries where people were expecting that they would actually be able to have busy periods. Summertime should have been busy for many industries, and then this happens. So what new ideas can you come up with? What do customers need now? And how can you collaborate with people to actually deliver something that helps your business survive, but can also support your local community as well? Work-life balance, I put a question mark because who knows what work-life balance means. What does it mean to you? For me, it means that I wake up in the morning and I have time to walk my dog, and I have breaks in between the day where I can check on my children, but I work long hours, and often when my kids go to sleep, I carry on working. But as long as I have time to have dinner with my kids every evening, I feel that I have great balance in my life, and that's me. What does it mean? I think at the end of the day, work-life balance and your happiness and your success needs to be defined by you. No one can define what success means to you. Success might mean, $1 million in the bank to you, but to someone else, success might just mean that their kid got to graduate, right? So just remember that what makes you happy should lead your vision. What your expectations are for yourself are very important, and try to focus on compromise rather than sacrifice, because I think for too many years Filipinos have sacrificed to go abroad, sacrificed to educate their children, and struggled, and there's more opportunities now, thank God. So let us focus on the opportunities, and what are we willing to compromise? What do we have to compromise? But a compromise means you get something in return. And a sacrifice just feels a little bit like you might have regrets later in life. So, don't be that person that says, I sacrificed my career for you, right? Think about whether you're willing to do that, and if you're going to look back and have regrets, because life is too short and you only have one life on earth. So, what happens after? Is working from home easy for you? Do you hate it? Were you one of these people that aspired to work from home, but now you're like, oh my gosh, just send me back to the office? This could be an opportunity, as much as it's painful to go through this together. And I know that many women and families and people all over the world are suffering and struggling, and worried and concerned, but it could be a chance to reflect on new choices, reflect on life and how it's been so far, and maybe we can do things differently, even a little bit differently, because do we really want to go back to how things used to be? I certainly hope that we never ever see EDSA like this again. I hope that companies will wake up, governments will wake up, and businesses will see other ways to work, and that although we may still get traffic again on the roads, and people will still need to be on the roads because not everything can be done remotely, I hope that this is a chance for some of the dormant ways to actually, wake up and find new ways now. There's too much, there's a lot of traditional ways and traditional people and traditional, policies that haven't shifted in tens and tens of years. And I think now people are forced to change. So if we're forced to change and think differently, then let's make it for the better. And I really hope that no woman in the future, I see a vision of a future where no woman has to leave her family just because there's no opportunities here in the Philippines. If you want to go abroad, it should be your choice and not a sacrifice that you have to make because there's nothing else. Gosh, I thought I might get through without crying, but it looks like I might fail. I always seem to make myself cry because when I look at that slide, I feel so emotional because I know that that's something that many of you can relate to. And finally, on a more positive note, of course, this is why we're here. Connect and connect and connect, because unless you can keep connecting with people around you, you may not be able to do the things that you want to do. No one can do it all alone, right? No one is a one-person success. So keep connecting with those people around you that will tell you that you can do it, and that will inspire you, and that will tell you, you know what, that's a crazy idea, but why not give it a try? Because if you keep listening to those negative voices in your head or around you, you may not be able to find that next step that makes you happy in your life. So connect with people. And I love this quote by Oprah. She said, surround yourself with people who are only going to lift you higher, especially in your work. You may be surrounded by family members who are just like that. Some people are just negative or risk adverse or afraid of things, and they love you and they care about you. So if they're telling you not to do things, don't blame them. But there are people that you can surround yourself with who will challenge you with your ideas and push you forward and move you towards your happiness and your success. So find those people. And remember, connecting is not just connecting today. It's not just joining an event or joining a networking session and being there, and meeting and exchanging business cards and adding people on Facebook as your friends. It really is important to invest in your relationships because meaningful connections take time. There's how many women on this call right now? I think the last time I looked, there was a couple of hundred, I think, more than 300. So many of us, we can't connect meaningfully with all of you. You can connect briefly and pass like ships through the night, and see each other's comments and support each other. But if you really want to connect with people, you have to find that tribe, right? That small tribe of people. It doesn't have to be hundreds. It could just be the 10 people in your local Connected Women group, in your local community, your closest friends, and really invest the time in growing those relationships and finding that tribe. The tribe that's right for you, that will help you grow as a person and that you can contribute to as well. And finally, I will leave you with my most favorite quote. And it's a quote by Mother Teresa. And she says, we cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And I live by this because I'm overwhelmed, right? I can't do enough to help the women in the community. There's so many things that need to be done. And I never feel like I'm doing enough. I'm sure that so many of you feel like this, that there's so many things that you want to do, but you just can't do it all. So it's kind of similar to the second slide about just taking small steps and figuring out what you can do next, right? And just doing it. What can I do? Well, I can do a few things, the things that I'm good at doing, like bringing women together, talking about things like this, trying to give you some support and motivation so that you can get out of bed tomorrow morning and hopefully take one step closer to your dream. But this is something that we can all do. So whatever that tiny, tiny thing is that you feel that you can contribute, it's valuable and it's very much appreciated. And that's it from me. Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed my top 10 tips for women starting up and running a business during the pandemic. I would love to stay connected with you. So let's connect on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter.